show you a very simple way to do two-player multi-touch. I've got a couple paddles up here. And in this method, what we're going to do is we're going to divide the screen in half. And we're going to use an operator to kind of help us keep track of the touches. And we're going to kind of let the computer do that with a real simple greater than or less than operator in our rules. So I've got this in horizontal mode, so we're going to be working primarily with the x-axis as far as registering where the touch is. Now we've got an iPad layout here, so we know that the iPad screen is 1024 wide. Now if you're going to do something that derives in portrait, you're going to make sure that you're dividing the y-axis and not the x. So it's just reverse principles. We're just going to work on the x-axis. And we're going to have our two actors out here, one on one side. So let's just go ahead and drag them out here. See if GameSalad's going to cooperate. Here we go. And we're going to put our blue paddle. And we're going to come on GameSalad. There we go. And we're going to put our red paddle out here. And so we've got them on two sides of the screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves just a little bit of no man's land in here. I'm just going to show you basic multi-touch. There are some other things that you should be aware of when you're going to be doing this stuff. We're going to be constraining these paddles to the X and Y position of the mouse touch of touch 1 and 2. So you need to remember that collisions are overridden when you constrain to the mouse position. There are some tutorials on how to deal with that. There are a couple different ways depending on your game, how you want to deal with collisions. You can constrain the paddle inside a certain area, or you can do another method that T-Shirt has demonstrated on his website in how to use a different method of using velocity constrained to the mouse position. It's a little tricky. I'm not going to go into all that. You'll have to decide which method is good for you, and there are already videos out there for you to decide and kind of cobble together your logic and how you want to do it. I'm going to show you in this video basically just how to deal with multi-touch. We've got our hands full with that, so we don't need any real external attributes or anything. That's what makes this kind of methodology really nice. So let's go and head into our blue paddle. And we're just going to make sure that it's movable, okay? And where we're dealing with a round actor here, because you can still have certain types of collisions going on, we're just going to go ahead and change that to a circle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to create a couple rules. So let's go in and make our first rule, and we're going to rename this touch 1. All right, so we have our touch 1, and what we're going to do is we're going to do when actor receives event, touch is pressed. Now, let's go into a little bit of touch is pressed. We don't want to get confused with the touch is pressed and the touch count, as I explained in the earlier video. All this means is that when our touch is within the confines of the actor. So let's just go back for a minute, because I think this is important to understand multi-touch. Now we know that the touch count registers anything that's touched anywhere on the screen here. So anywhere I touch, the touch count's going to go up and down on the screen. It has no relationship to the actors. The same with the touch 1, touch 2, touch 3, touch 4, touch 5 mouse positions. They do not have anything to do with touches pressed. What touches pressed does is that it registers when you've touched the screen, and that touch comes within the confines of the screen area that this actor takes up. It knows that the touch is directly on this actor. That's all touches pressed means. It just means that when you've touched the screen and your finger is on the screen, and that finger is within, and the touch is within the confines of the pixels that this actor takes up, it recognizes that the touch is on that actor. It recognizes that the touch on the screen is now in the confines of this actor. So there's no relationship between the touch count and the touch 1, touch 2, touch 3. So when I touch out here, let's say, okay, now the touch count's going to change to 1, and now my mouse would be constrained, or my finger would be constrained to touch 1. This is the mouse position, wherever my finger is. Your finger is, what you have to remember in touching is that your finger is just like the mouse. So now when I moved over this actor and I'm pressing, this actor is now going to recognize that my finger is on it and I'm pressing it. Okay, so we need to see that that's what touch is pressed means. All right, so let's go in there. So now that we've kind of resolved that, now what we're going to say is when touch is pressed, in other words, when our finger is over that actor, pressed on the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to say when the attribute of that actor, the self attribute, so the paddles, the touches, excuse me, so we're going to go to device, touches, when touch 1 in the X position, because remember I said we're going to divide the screen in half, so when the first touch that's put on the screen, which is going to be linked to touch 1, okay, the touch 1 X position, when it's less than, let's just go ahead and say 321 pixels. When it's less than 321 pixels, so in other words, when the first touch is on that left side of the screen, when that touch is somewhere in the area between 0 and 321 pixels, we're going to go ahead and constrain. So let's go ahead and get a couple constrain attributes here. We're going to go ahead and constrain this paddle to the touch 1 position. So what the computer's going to know where that touch is. So it's going to know when touch 1 is on that side of the screen. So we're kind of letting the computer do keeping track some of this for us. So we're going to constrain the self position of the paddle, the X on this first constrain, to devices, touches, the touch 1, the first touch that was laid on the screen, to its X position. Because each finger essentially in multi-touch becomes a mouse. So all we're really doing here is constraining this actor to the mouse position of touch 1 or mouse 1. So we're going to go into this one and we're going to say self position Y to game device touches touch 1 Y. Okay, so now essentially when the touch is less than 321 pixels and the actor isn't pressed, in other words, when we're less than 321 pixels and our finger is on this actor, it's going to constrain to that position. So let's just go ahead and back, and let's just go ahead and do a quick preview. Okay, and grab it, and we see that it works. And we see when we don't touch on the actor and we're around there, it doesn't do anything. Same way with this one, we've got no rules in it. We're not doing it. If we touch out here, when we get out here, it's going to drop it. We're not going to be able to keep going because we've passed the limitation. So this is going to allow you to keep this player from crossing the screen too far. It's just a little laggy. All right, so now let's go back into the blue paddle. And let's, I'm not going to be able to show you it working. You're just going to have to try this for yourself. So we're going to have another rule, and we're going to call this one touch 2. Okay, and the same thing when touch is pressed, and when the attribute devices touches, now we're into the second touch, touch X is less than 321. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab a couple constraint attributes, and we're going to grab another one, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to say constrain self position X to devices, touches, touch 2, X. And we're going to do the same for Y. So position Y, 2 devices, touches, touch 2, Y. So now essentially what this is going to do is it's going to say when the second touch is less than 321 that it will accept the second touch on that side. So it'll automatically assign, it'll pick between the 2 touches right here. So touch 1 is on the other side, and we're going to have the exact same rules in the other paddle, except we're going to do a greater than in there. So we've got these set up so that when touch 1 is less than, so what'll happen is, since these rules are in an order, it'll override. And you can put lockouts in there too. You could build more advanced logic. I'm just showing you the basics. So when touch 1 and touch 2, when touch 2 is on, 1 is on the other side of the screen, when you touch 2, and it's going to see, the computer's going to see that touch is pressed on the actor, and that touch 2 is less than 321 on the screen, it's going to go down and assign it to the mouse 2 position. Okay? So let's go ahead and add to our red paddle. And basically we're going to do the same things. Change this to a circle. And we're going to go ahead and actually we can just copy these rules and change one parameter. So we're just going to go ahead and shift select. And I'm going to command copy. And I'm going to come into my red actor. And I'm going to command paste, command V. And there's my rules. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change this in the other one to greater than. So we're just going to say greater than 500 pixels. I'm just throwing numbers out there. We'll change this operator to greater than. So now the reverse is going to happen the way that we have this set up now, so that when touch 1 is on the other side of the screen and the touch is greater than 500 pixels, it's going to follow touch 1. If touch 2 happens to be the one that's on the far side of the screen, it'll go to touch 2 and it'll track. And this will automatically track everything for you and keep everything going. So I can just show you the basics. Same thing, touch out here, nothing happens. I can grab this one now and I can move it. I can grab this one and we see it's assigning to the touch the way it is. What I can't show you right here is the 2 working, but they do work. If you test this out and output it, you'll see that it works. And I'm not going to go through the time of making a video of me holding my iPad just to show you. It does work. Like I said, it does have some limitations. It does have, remember, when you constrain the mouse, walls don't work, and you should use the method of drag and drop that's in the video about dragging and dropping an actor just to make sure it stays in place. And there's other code that goes involved in this. But this is one way to do a real simple 2-player game where one player stays on one side all the time and the other player stays on the other side all the time. It does have its limitations, and so you'll just have to kind of debug that and work that logic out for yourself. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do another method where you can drag them, where you're not going to have that line of demarcation where you can drag a couple actors around. And that has some limitations too, but we'll just show you how to get you started in some basic multi-touch. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, part 3.